I'm Jonah Comstock, Editor-in-Chief at Pharma Forum. I'm here at Bio 2025 in Boston. It's day 3. I'm joined by Brian Alexander, CEO of Valo Health. Thanks for joining me, Brian.
Thanks for having me.
So, Brian, tell me a little bit about the work you're doing at Valo.
So Valo is a company that really reimagines what drug development would be like if we started in a world where there was availability of a lot of data and advanced analytics at scale. So everything from how we might learn more from observing patients in kind of general clinical practice to how we would organize teams to do small molecule drug development. We really kind of start from scratch and thinking about how can we leverage all the technologies that are available today to do things in kind of a different way.
And are you like a services company, or are you working on your own pipeline?
I would say we work on our own pipeline. We're not a services company. So we like to find partners, and we think about what, in order to develop drugs for patients as quickly and efficiently as possible, there's an ecosystem. And we try to think about who are we in this ecosystem, what do we do best, and partner with others who do other things really well. So target identification in large amounts of real world data, I think we do that really well. Validating those targets in human preclinical models, we do that really well. And then small molecule chemistry through AI-enabled teams, we do that really well also. So we like to work with partners that are really good at clinical development in different areas. So we don't focus as much on the clinical development side, but are kind of a platform for R&D that gets to the drugs into the clinic, and then we partner with people to take those the rest of the way.
That makes a lot of sense. There's a tremendous amount of opportunity in AI and drug discovery and drug development right now, but also, of course, a tremendous amount of competition. So how do you cut above, rise to the top, differentiate?
Yeah, I think we're kind of getting to a stage in the kind of AI hype cycle where people are starting to ask the question, well, what are you actually using it for? Just saying you use AI is something is like saying like we use computers, and it's really like what are the problems that you're trying to solve. So I think that there is a competitive space, but there are also, a lot of the groups are using AI for different purposes. So some are using to do kind of biology and chemistry like more efficiently and at scale. Some are using it to make clinical operations more efficient and like make document submission. So like kind of the way that we do things already, just quicker or more efficient. I think we really take a step back and reimagine how we might use these tools in new ways. So for example, most of drug development kind of has happened through experimentation, either in the lab or in the clinic through clinical trials. But there's another way that we learn through observation, which has been limited by the amount of data that's been available. And even if you had the data available, how can you recognize patterns in tens of millions of patients over 10, 20 years, and with the like thousands of things you can measure about any patient right now? How do you have these aha moments where you notice patterns where like, oh, these patients are kind of like those, and maybe that connects to this biochemical pathway that like I read about, but instead of one person reading about it, you can synthesize the world's literature through knowledge graphs and connect that to the kind of phenomapping of patients through machine learning and other advanced analytic techniques. And then when you get to small molecule drug development, it's not really screening millions of compounds anymore. It's like there's hundreds of trillions of things you could imagine. So how do you search that space virtually and really find the molecule that you're looking for to solve the problem that you want to solve?
So the first step, and probably the hardest step in terms of resources involved, is getting a good data set to sift through for that. So how do you source your data, and how do you differentiate in that realm?
Ultimately, we don't believe that sourcing data is going to be a differentiator. I think we do have pretty unique access to a lot of large health systems data sets through either partnerships or directly or through other company partnerships. But we really think that the differentiator is going to be how you do causal inference from that information, how you take the observational data, not only notice patterns, but really use it to complement the lab data to prioritize targets. All the targets are probably all the potential targets are probably known, but like which are important in which disease. I think because we start with the disease first and then try to recognize patterns within that disease, and we have advanced kind of analytics for that, but also not basic, but more traditional means of things like causal inference, like statistical genetics. We combine those things to rank our target list. I think we found the partners that we work with think that we're at least bringing an orthogonal set of information to target identification and validation, if not a completely unique way of doing it. So we have very unique access to large amounts of data right now, but I think that that's not necessarily a differentiator long term. It's really how do you extract knowledge and insights from that information that is the differentiator.
Any success stories so far?
Sure. I mean, we like success stories in terms of like how we're working in with partners. We have a large development deal with Novo Nordisk. I can't talk about specific things that we're developing with them, but this idea that we're working with them from the very beginning, target identification, large amounts of real world data on cardiovascular metabolism, type 2 diabetes, and obesity, and then working with their preclinical teams to kind of advance things rapidly through their pipeline to get into the clinic as fast as possible. And then we have our own kind of pipeline that we're advancing along the way, but which we just think of as things we haven't partnered yet. So like, how do we take something to a next inflection point where there's a value that's been demonstrated so that you can work with somebody who really wants to develop this molecule for that disease?
I mean, Novo, of course, is sort of playing defense in obesity right now, trying to make sure that whatever the next thing is, they find it before somebody else does. Is that a kind of a good use case for you guys?
I don't know that they're playing defense. I think that they're a very innovative company. That certainly when we work with them, it's not only we talk about ways of working internally at Valo, how we utilize technologies, but how we work with other companies. And I think Novo's been very kind of innovative in the ways that they partner and the ways that we work together, so that our kind of like new way of approaching either the real world data or small molecule closed loop design really dovetails nicely with kind of the way that they've kind of thought about things in the past, and they bring a large amount of expertise in those areas. So the things that we're working on with them, I think, are extraordinarily innovative, and we're excited to kind of keep them moving to get them into the clinic so the rest of the world can see that too.
How has the show been for you so far? There's been a ton of focus on AI. I think on Monday that there was a whole summit just about AI. And have you learned anything interesting?
I think people are starting to ask the right questions. So back to, instead of just saying kind of like AI and your AI drug developments, and I still think there's some magical thinking along with AI that it, like solves some like unbespoke problem that we can't imagine. I think right now some of the questions I've heard being asked of people and the answers that I've heard are the conversations getting to the right place, which are having, and this is how we work inside of Valo, which is we have real kind of experienced drug developers, whether they're medicinal chemists or epidemiologists, working with people developing novel technologies together to solve those problems. So, some of the questions I've heard asked are like real problems that drug developers have. And I think you're starting to hear like real answers, like that we're using this technology in ways that solve problems that we know, or identify new pathways where we actually don't know all the problems yet, because like this is a completely new way of approaching a problem. But I think maybe 2-3 years ago, if you would have heard people talking about AI, there was like this gap, and like people said, oh well, we can solve it all with AI, or we can solve it all with an agent, and then it wasn't like meeting kind of the moment where like the drug developers were, where they say like, well, no, safety is an actual problem that you have to solve. Like how do you do that? And I think the conversations now, I've been encouraged that they're actually more substantive, and really like the kind of people who are the technologists who like know the tools are having a more open conversation with the people who have been doing drug development for a while and know the problems that need to be solved.
That's great to hear. More meaningful, more productive conversations.
Absolutely.
Any other thoughts or anything else you wanted to mention we haven't talked about yet?
No, just I mean, I guess just to say, take a step back and then kind of have the extraordinary moment and place that we're in. I mean, this is Boston, Cambridge, Massachusetts, is like life sciences hotbeds of the world at a time where like the world's completely changed, and the availability of data, whether it's kind of on patients or on the molecular profiling of disease, is extraordinary. So like we are standing right now at a place that the world is going to change in really meaningful ways, and it's couldn't be a more exciting time to be here.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Brian. Yeah. Great to chat with you.
Nice chatting with you.